Grady Burrows is an engineer and an IT guy, and is the executive director of HIT in the CLE, an organization that works with high school and college students to provide greater access to computer and data science programs. Grady embraces the idea that with hard work comes great reward, but knows he couldn't have gotten to where he is today without a great support network.
My name is Grady Burrows, and I serve as the executive director of an organization called HIT in the CLE. And what we do is that we work with high school and college students to expose and get them greater access to computer science and data science. So I've been doing this for about 6 years, and it's a great addition to my IT professional career.
Can you tell me about that career? What led you to where you are now?
Sure. So my undergraduate degree is in industrial and systems engineering. And when I first got out of college, I was in the manufacturing side and then went back, got a MBA and did consulting for a number of years. When I got tired of being a road warrior and traveling all over the world, I came back to Cleveland. And that's really in about 1991 is when my IT professional career began. And I worked several jobs in different corporate IT functions, everything from large scale project management to IT vendor management, working most recently with Highland Software in Westlake, doing program implementation and project management there. And then I was fortunate to get the job that transitioned me to what I'm doing now, which is working with an organization called Enterprise and really growing out their health IT sector pipeline. So really my job is to grow the diverse talents that are needed right now within IT field, especially as they're looking for more people of color, Black and brown people to really come into organizations that desperately need more talent and more diverse talent.
That's really fantastic. I wonder if you could take me a little farther back than that. Take me to 12, 13, 14-year-old Grady Burrows.
Wow.
When you were thinking about your career, when you were in school and thinking about what to do next, what decision making, what interests, what sparked the interest to lead you into what you started to study in college?
Sure. So when I was in about middle school age, I liked math and science. I wouldn't say I was like overly aggressive or built things and took them apart, but I enjoyed math and science and I enjoyed technology. I just liked the way that technology was making things better, technological innovations that were taking place around me and in the world, and knew that I wanted to have a touch or a hand in that some way and somehow. And as I got a little older in high school, I started thinking about engineering as a discipline to study in college. And somebody said, well, all the engineering disciplines, industrial and systems engineering is the discipline that really is the one that best melds and meshes technology and people together. And I'm a people person, so I enjoy working with people. And I said, wow, if I can study anything, I think industrial engineering will be the discipline for me. And I kind of knew my major before I went to college as far as even which discipline within engineering I wanted to study. So that was really the impetus or the driver for me to study industrial engineering, and applied to a bunch of schools, and Ohio State was the one that was most benevolent as far as assisting me with the costs to me and my family. So that really dictated where I was going and what I was going to study.
Can you think of any obstacles that you had to overcome or difficulties that you had to encounter getting into that field?
Well, I would say just college in general. It wasn't easy. Definitely was a challenge, but I did have the ability to participate in a pre-engineering program at Ohio State for minority students. It was a 7-week program called Preface, and it allowed me to basically go to school with about 15 other students coming in at the same time. And our cohort was one that we locked arms together and really grind. I guess we found our way through college together, and we really stood side by side and helped each other out. And without it, I don't think I would have made it. I think in college, you really do find out what you're made out of from the standpoint of engineering. It's not an easy discipline, and there's a lot of advanced math and science, and really the some of the toughest courses were really kind of eye openers for me, because in high school I was a pretty good student, a pretty good B+ student in high school, and when you go off to college, it's a whole kind of another level. But I found that I really had to rely on that peer group around the teachers, TAs, just really a support system and that network in general to help me get through. So that was probably the hardest part of my professional career, getting the start. But once I got through and got out into the real world and began working, things tend to get a lot easier. And you really do learn on the job what it means to be a IT professional or a STEM professional in the real world.
Yeah, that's a theme that has come up in a lot of these conversations for Black and Brown people that are in STEM careers, is finding that support network and finding, other people that look like you. How important is that for students now that are thinking about that are thinking about those careers?
It's huge. It's huge because there are a lot of people and a lot of support systems out there to help you, but you can't be on an island by yourself. You have to reach out and raise your hand and say, "I need help," or "I would like to network and find other people who look like me, who think like me, and who might be able to understand my perspective or where I'm coming from." In college, there are a number of organizations like NSBE, the National Society of Black Engineers, that I was a part of, still is in existence today. That is very, very helpful. There is an organization very similar for Hispanic and Latino students in many college campuses. And it's really about hopefully finding that mentor also that you can feel comfortable with sharing your journey, your trials and tribulations with, because often there are going to be people who have been there before. I know it's kind of old hat, but many of us have walked those same roads and bridges and crossed some of those same obstacles that you might cross and will experience as a student. So believe me when I say reaching out and talking to other people who are a little older, who have gone through this process before you, can often give you some really good insight and wisdom, and help you out navigating some of the challenges you might face as you pursue a STEM career.
Mhm. Was you're certainly aware of this. I mean, this is in your work now, and this is part of the thrust of this campaign, is this notion that this fact that Black and Brown people are underrepresented in STEM careers. Was that something that you were aware of when you were in high school, or was that something, did you realize going into it that you were going to be part of an underrepresented population getting into this, and that might be an obstacle in and of itself, or was that something you discovered a little later on?
I didn't realize as much when I was in high school because I went to a pretty integrated high school and came from Cleveland, and just thought that maybe the bigger world looked like what Cleveland looked like from my lens or my perspective. But it wasn't until I got to college and was actually, taking coursework at Ohio State, and from a numbers perspective, many times in classes back in the 80s, I was one or the only one or one of a very few number of students in many of my science and math classes. And then when you begin doing internships and actually going out to the work world and you're in a real work setting, it's really full effect. So you realize full front and center, I did, how underrepresented we were today. And I'd like to say in 2022 we've made great progress, and we have definitely made great strides, but it's still not a level playing field. It's not nearly as equitable as it should be, and that's why we're fighting. Sorry for my dog in the background.
It's okay.
We're fighting many ways in order to make sure that it's more equitable and just fair in general. I seen or a commercial was on recently that talks about some of the challenges many black and brown students, and I'm very very happy for that visibility. But I still think and say to myself, wow, in 2022 it's still an issue, and it's still something that we need to bring light to.
So what do you tell students now? What do you tell a kid that's in school that's, again, that's at that 11, 12, 13-year-old, where they're just sort of trying to think about things that they're interested in and starting to explore what a career might look like or what secondary ed might look like, but that says there's just too much in the way, that whether it's economic disadvantage, whether it's an access issue. I mean, these are all related, obviously, but what do you tell a kid that says, I'm interested in computers, but there's just no way I can get there?
Sure. I tell them, do not let go of your dream. Do not for 1 second think that you're less than, that you're incapable of, or that you cannot achieve whatever it is that you want to do. Because I can tell you, I was not an A student in college. After high school, I struggled with many things, but I fought. I ground my way through it, and I found a way to make it through. And college is just a transition. It's just kind of a step in a long, long journey. By no means is it the end. It's just really the beginning. So you may find, and you will find, some challenges and difficulties, but seek out mentorship, seek out friends, seek out a support network. Call whomever you have to find someone to help you and give you advice and show you a way in order for you to be successful. Because I guarantee you, the benefits and the realization of accomplishing something at the college level and then professionally will far outweigh the pain that you're experiencing now. And it's really a lifetime. One of the best things that I can say a STEM education did for me is that it helped me to be able to think. And it opened so many doors as far as the ability to be nimble and to be able to change in this rapidly changing world, to give you options. You want to have the ability to choose from what you're going to do, where you're going to go, what kinds of experiences you're going to have. And a STEM career gives you those types of opportunities, as opposed to some career options, which kind of limit you or box you into very few. So if your passion is to be an aeronautical engineer, computer science engineer, mechanical engineer, or anything within STEM, I'd say, please, by all means, go for it. Shoot for it, grind through it, and find a way to achieve. And I promise you, you will not be disappointed.
It sounds like there's no easy way to get through it, though, when you're talking about a STEM career and you're just talking about the academics of it. Like, it sounds like there's going to be some growing pains and going through it to get there.
Oh, almost definitely. It's a challenge, no matter where you are. As far as post-secondary, whether it's a 2-year, 4-year, or even a boot camp experience, it's going to test you. But it's so gratifying once you make your way through. And quite honestly, I can remember in college, and many of my peers, and college is a time of growth and exploration, and finding new friends and making a lot of decisions. And we had to make some tough decisions. Do we go to this party? Do we go out? Or do we put off or defer gratification and study on a Friday night sometimes, as opposed to doing some things that are more fun, in order to make it through. And it's those types of decisions, as you grow and you mature and you become a young adult, that we're all faced with, making those decisions as to what we're going to do to serve our best interests. So I look back and say, by all means, I didn't make all the best decisions all the time, but I made more better decisions than worse. And it's just part of the process of growing up.
Mhm. So what other practical advice can you give students now that are exploring beyond, stick with it and reach out to people? What else would you tell them to do?
I would say what's important right now, especially as in high school, is just do your best. Make sure you are paying as close attention and giving it your all right now in high school, because high school and the middle school years really are the building blocks and the foundation that supports you later on, as you leave high school and prepare for college. So it's really, really important that you do everything possibly, sorry for the background,
Okay.
um, in your ability to prepare yourself for college. One of the things that I often tell students is it's really important also to be exposed to standardized testing, although all colleges aren't necessarily using standardized tests today. But the sooner you can even take practice tests and understand how those tests are administered and how to achieve and perform better on them, will serve you well. So do not wait until it's mandatory in your 10th or 11th grade year. Start as a 9th grader, even as an 8th grader or middle school students, looking at those tests, understanding how they work, and how to best score your best possible result by talking to someone, taking a practice exam, finding resources online. They're out there. When it comes to finances, again, don't wait until it's time to pack your bags and go off to college. You got to start early. Look at what schools offer, what type of aid, what types of scholarships you might be able to get and to receive, and what types of funding are out there, because there's still a lot of funding out there, depending on who you are, where you come from, what city you live in. There's about a million different aspects and criteria that can fall into it. So again, being early and doing it sooner rather than later is very, very important. And I say last but not least is, look far and broad. Many times, and it's not a bad thing to necessarily stay home, because sometimes that support network at home can be vital in enabling you to make it through. But this world's a big place, and there's a lot of colleges and institutions out there. And sometimes traveling a little bit away from home, maybe out of state, might afford you a better opportunity than staying here. So by all means, look at all of your options, put it on the table. And when that day comes, it's much better to be able to, again, have options to choose from than to have one road that you have to travel down because it's the only thing affordable or available to you.
And it definitely, and it sounds to me like that sort of draws into focus also why that support network is going to be important. Because if you have someone that says, that's just sort of sitting there thinking, I don't have options, reach out to people that will tell you, yeah, you do. And this is how you get there.
Exactly. And by far, one of the things that's really hard is kind of like a big adult terminology, or maybe we don't understand, is that whole networking component. Many times people think about networking from the standpoint of networking to get a job or to be able to get that next position. But even as a student today, networking can be so important to your success. Knowing more people, being able to pull on those resources, get insight, advice, assistance. It's really, really important. So sometimes we have this ability or desire to maybe sit in the back or to be quiet, to never ask questions. Believe me when I say, um, a closed mouth gathers no food, and you have to raise your hand. You have to shake hands. You have to introduce yourself to people. You got to talk, because it's those individuals that go out and make those connections and are not shy, but say, hello, my name is Grady Burrows, and I want to be an engineer, or I want to be a STEM professional. How can you help me? It's those individuals who are going to succeed.
All right, last question that we've been asking pretty much everyone we talk to. Beyond the meaning of the acronym itself, what does STEM mean to you?
To me, it means really someone who is curious, who really has a lens and wears glasses of curiosity and wants to find out how things work. How can they have an impact on our worlds that we live in? How can we use technology to better enable our lives, our health, our society, our cities? And how can you be a change agent and utilize technology to enable those things, not only from an outside looking in perspective, but from an outside, not only from the world, but also personally. So what I mean by that is that, I think of, STEM as being kind of a two-for, in that you can do great things, whether you're sending people into outer space or devising the next energy cell that'll power a car. But also STEM can provide you a great opportunity to make a good living, a great living, and sometimes enable even greater things like entrepreneurship, or the ability to be a business owner, or the ability to just have a really wonderful and fabulous career. So it's really a kind of a 2-for-1, where it's not just a job that you kind of look at, day to day. How do I punch a clock and spend these 8 hours? But how can I transform my life into doing the kinds of things that will enable me to have a great personal and financial satisfaction and make a difference in the world? So that's what STEM means to me.